Hey guys, welcome to another vlog. I hope you're all doing well. I'm just starting this vlog in the car, firstly because it's quite chilly outside, and secondly because there's quite a lot of people at the yard at the moment and I get a little bit embarrassed vlogging. I'm not gonna lie. Talking in front of a camera isn't something that comes naturally to me, but I really enjoy sharing these videos. I enjoy creating them, editing them and making them for you guys, and I hope they're beneficial. So I would like to get more confident, but talking to a camera in front of people is a little step out of my comfort zone at the moment, so I'm going to start it in here. I may do a separate introduction once I'm out if people leave, if I feel a bit more confident, but we'll see where it goes. But today Nancy needs a haircut, so we're just going to give her a mane trim around her jawline, trim around her fetlocks and give her a towel a little trim. And I've had a lot of people asking on my Instagram. I say a lot of people, I haven't had a lot of people, that's a lie. A few people asking on my Instagram, A, why I cut her mane with scissors, and B, how I make it look quite natural and not too choppy. So I just wanted to do a quick video on that just to show you what I do, to sort of blend it in and make it look a bit more feathered and smooth, rather than pulling it or using a rake or anything like that, because I don't particularly like the idea of that. Not something I've really ever done. So yeah, just a quick little look, but I will catch up with you once I've got Nancy out the stable and we can start having a look, and I shall speak to you then. See you in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to do a voiceover on this one. The yard was still pretty busy when I got out, so I just kind of cracked on and got going. It was also quite noisy up there as well, so I didn't think you'd actually be able to hear much of what I was saying. But I'm just starting by trimming Nancy's bridle path here. Sometimes I'll do this with a pair of trimmers, but as I was just using the scissors, it comes off quite nicely. I only take about 1 inch or 2 inches gap out, just so her bridle sits in there comfortably. And then we start cutting the mane. So as you can see, I literally just brush it all through, make sure it's all nice, knot free, and over to the one side. And then I take off probably about 3/4 of the length that I'm actually planning to cut it off by. The length you choose is completely up to your own preference. I like quite short manes, and being quite lazy, it means that I don't have to do it too often. So I cut the length off, and then I just cut into it to sort of feather it through, thin out the ends, and it sort of lightens it up. So I'm just bringing you in for a bit of a closer look here, and I'll stop the fast forwarding so you can actually see what I'm doing. I use a comb to lift it up off of her neck, mainly so that you're not actually cutting any of the hairs on her neck. I have done that before, as I've been trimming into her neck going upwards like that. It's caught her coat hairs, not so much now because she's clipped, but if they've got longer, thicker coats, it's something I recommend. And I also find you can cut a bit deeper into the hair that way, which again takes more weight out. Nancy hasn't got the thickest mane in the world, so hers does go quite nicely, but I find the more you chop into it, the more natural it looks. Again, that's completely your preference, whether you prefer sort of the more blunt looking show jumpery manes or whether you prefer it more natural and thinned out. So I just repeat the process the whole way through, cutting a little bit more length off and then cutting into it again. It's quite difficult when they're moving, and she was obviously eating her hay nut there and she kept looking around, so she was not making my life easy at all. But yeah, that's the process. So just cut a little bit off, thin it out and keep going. Stand back, have a look, keep combing it through. The more you comb it through, the better your results will be, and really try and get like deep into the root of the hair and pull it through as well. And I use the comb underneath the mane as well to sort of pull it down, because sometimes some of the hairs can get a bit tangled at the root and then you'll end up with like longer bits coming through. And what I also like to do is when you're cutting, as I am there, I try and almost angle my scissors so the blade that's closer to her neck is slightly higher. So the piece of mane that falls out on the top of the mane would actually lie slightly longer than the underneath of her mane. And I do that to keep the length and the weight over, and it's just my personal preference again. It's just something I've found that helps with stopping the mane flopping over to the wrong side. Especially if you've got one like Nancy with a bit of a thinner, lighter weight mane, especially if they're wearing neck rugs, or living out maybe where they're rubbing their manes more and a bit windy. I just find personally it helps keep the mane to one side rather than cutting the scissors angled the other way so the underneath would be longer. It then tends to flop over, or you get the top layer flop to the other side. So again, personal preference, is just what I found over the years has worked better. Forelocks I don't generally trim too often, and when I do, I don't cut straight across. I use the comb to obviously brush it out, and again, if you're combing right from the root, you can actually thin it out a little bit that way, brushing it right down, and then I literally just cut up and into it, because I don't like that to look blunt or choppy at all. I like that to look as natural as possible. But yeah, we'll just keep going, keep chopping, and don't be scared to cut it. Obviously, if you can have somebody come and help you, that would be ideal if it's your first time, but they do grow back. And as you can see here, I think Nancy was getting a bit bored. So you'll see at the end of the clip I do trim her tail a little bit, but I don't actually end up trimming her jawline today. She didn't really need it too much, and I did trim her fetlocks, but I'll show you that on another video at another point because my camera did actually cut out at that point. I ran out of storage, and yes, Nancy was very bored. So we just ended up doing that very, very quickly. But you can see here her mane's laying nice and flat. It's a lot shorter than it was at the start. Big kisses. Yeah, it's a lot shorter than it was to start, and I think it looks really nice and smart and natural, and it's not sort of too blunt and choppy, but again, you can go for the look that you choose and what you prefer. Quick little tiggle. So yeah, we're just going to do her tail here, so I just make sure it's all brushed through. Use a little bit of mane and tail if you need to. I actually took quite a bit off there because where she's out in the field in the mud, it was getting quite tangly and a bit horrible. Obviously I don't really like to wash it too much, so I literally just trim the length off and then just cut down the sides. I like to leave her tail quite natural at the top. I'm trying to get it to grow out a bit as well, so I literally just trim the very, very sides just to neaten it up so you don't kind of get that fanned out splayed effect. But that is what I do for her tail. So I'm just going to show you a close-up of Nancy's mane. This is now a couple of days on. I like to give it a couple of days to settle, and you might find like a little piece or so that might need an extra trim up, but she's just coming from the field, so her mane is looking a bit wild. Obviously this part here is quite thin. It can't really be helped at this time of year with rugs and rubbing, but I've just given it a quick brush through. She's going to stand still for me. It's not laying very well at the minute, which is not helping my video. But you can see, I mean, it doesn't look like I've just like blunted her with a pair of scissors. It's nice and even. It's nice and sort of blended through. Nance, can you look this way? Excuse these rubs on her as well. They're her reins. I have swapped her reins over, but I think I need to get some of them little sheepskin things to stop it rubbing. Nancy. But yeah, as you can see, it looks nice and flat. It lays it over. Don't really have too many problems with it flopping sides, and yeah, it just looks nice and natural, and it grows out really nice as well. You don't sort of get any choppy bits. What are you doing, Missy? Do you want to cuddle? You don't really get any choppy bits or anything like that, but yeah, I just much prefer it to pulling it or anything like that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was helpful. So that's now Nancy's mane all done. As I say, it's now a couple of days on, just because I wanted to give you a proper look at it once it's all sort of levelled down and flat. But that's the way I've always done manes. It's the way I prefer it. I think they look really natural and nice. You can sort of do the length how you like it. I like them quite short, but they also grow out really nice as well, so it means you don't have to do it too often. Rummaging through the bags. She's got a new rug in there, so we're going to try that on. But yeah, it means you don't have to do them too often, which is really great as well. If you've got like a last minute show, you know, they're not going to look too untamed and wild, which is brilliant. But let me know in the comments if you chop your manes with scissors or if you pull them still. Be interesting to hear what you do with your guys. But yeah, it's the way I've always done it. I personally don't like pulling them. I'm gonna go before Nancy tramples her new rug. But yeah, great to catch up with you, and let me know what you thought in the comments. Bye.